Excel 2016, Chapter 5, pages 306 through 309. I know that you read about changing the layout of a pivot table on the bottom of page 305 because it's really important for your homework, and when you have a pivot table that's just a complete mess when you're trying to do your homework, it usually has to do with the layout. So make sure you read about that, please, before we go to the top of page 306. To move the business field to the columns area. All right. In the pivot table fields task pane, the first thing I want to show you is this. If you click outside of your pivot table, you're going to lose this task pane. If that happens, click back into your pivot table. Okay, it'll pop right back up. Again, if you click outside, you're going to be yelling, oh my gosh, what do I do? Just click in your pivot table and it's going to show right back up for you. Okay, so locate the business field button in the rows area. Okay, so down here in our rows area, here's our business field, right? Drag the business field button from the rows area to the columns area. So the first thing we need to do is we need to look and see where columns is, and it's right here. To grab it, you get on top of it, you get this black four-pronged mouse head. You hold down your left mouse button and you just drag and drop. And you could see a huge change over there when that happens. Again, take a look at the way our pivot table looks right now. Grab business, pull it up to columns and let go, and now take a look at the layout. Okay, so stop and ask yourself what just happened. Okay, we had it down here in rows, which means, look at that. See the way it's going over there? Then we grab it and we put it up in columns, and now each one of them is up here, the different types of businesses. Do you see the difference? Again, not enough to click the buttons and follow the video. Please make sure you understand why you're doing what you're doing. The pivot table is now rearranged so the business field is a column label instead of a row label. See figure 5-38 and compare it to your screen. Okay? On page 306, just read really briefly about choosing a report layout and formatting a pivot table. Then we'll move up to the top of page 307. To apply the pivot style medium 14 style to the pivot table. Step number 1, make sure the active cell is in the pivot table. So you have to be clicked over here. I'm right here. It doesn't matter as long as you're inside the pivot table. On the ribbon, click the Pivot Table Tools Design tab. Pivot Table Tools, Design. In the Pivot Table Styles group, right here, click the More button to open the Pivot Table Style Gallery. Right there. Okay, these are light and medium categories. Move the pointer over each style to see the live preview of the pivot table. Okay, so you can just kind of go through. Ooh, that was awful. You can kind of go through here. That's really horrible. And it kind of gives you an idea, you know, of, oh, I love yellow, I'll pick this one. Yeah, no one can read it, right? So just go through here, kind of touch them. That's also absolutely horrendous. And see which ones you think might be good to use in your pivot table. Step number 5, click the Pivot Style Medium 14 style, the last style in the second row of the medium section. Remember, if you touch them, they light up with a screen tip. That's Pivot Style Medium 13, and that's Pivot Style Medium 14. Okay? To format the amount field in the pivot table is currency. In the Values area of the Pivot Table Field task pane, click the Sum of Amount button. Okay? So right here. Now when you touch that little down pointing arrow, see how it says Sum of Amount? Go ahead and click it. Click the Value Field Settings button. I cannot tell you how important these steps are for your homework. Okay? So you come over here and you see where it says Sum of Amount. You click the down pointing arrow, then you select Value Field Settings. Go ahead and click on it. Now you get your Value Field Settings dialog box. In the Custom Name box, which is right here, type Total Sales. That's now the label for that field. You'll leave sum as a summary function for the field. However, you could select a different function if you needed to. Okay, so we have our custom name. We have sum right here. click the Number Format button. Do you see it right here at the bottom left-hand side? Go ahead and click Number Format. The Format Cells dialog box opens. This is the same dialog box you've used before to format numbers in worksheet cells. It should look very familiar to you. So go ahead and turn the page to 308. Okay, at the top of page 308, number 5, in the category box, click Currency. Again, all of this should be super familiar to you. You'll use the default number of decimal places, currency symbol, and the default negative number format. Step number 6, go ahead and click OK. The numbers in the pivot table will be formatted as currency with 2 decimal places. Step number 7, click OK. The value field setting dialog box closes, and the pivot table changes to reflect the label you entered, and the number format for the field changes to the currency. Okay, you got that? So now you see them. You've got your currency format with 2 decimal places, right? Go ahead and read about filtering a pivot table on page 308. Okay. And you also adding a field to the filters area. There's a lot of stuff in this chapter, you guys. Please make sure you're reading this textbook. To add the sales ID field to the filters area, step number 1. In the pivot table fields task pane, drag the sales ID button from the rows area to the filters area. Okay, so we're going to take sales ID from rows to filters. By default, the filter field item shows all to indicate that the pivot table displays all the summarized data associated with the sales ID. Okay? Go ahead and take a look at figure 5-40 and compare it to your screen, and you'll see right here it says sales ID and all, correct? All right, at the top of page 309. Next, you'll filter the summarized report to show only sales for sales ID 2. In cell B1, so here's B1, click the filter button, which is right there. The filter menu opens, showing the field items displayed. In the filter menu, click 2. Right now it's on all. Do you see it? We'll click 2. And then click OK. The pivot table displays the total amount of sales on dates associated with sales ID number 2 only. The filter button changes to indicate that the pivot table is currently filtered. See figure 5-41. Okay. In the middle of 309, just read that little quick paragraph about filtering. To filter residential care from the business column labels. In the pivot table, click the Column Labels Filter button. Okay, Column Labels Filter button. Do you see it right there? Go ahead and hit that down pointing arrow. The filter menu opens, listing the items in the business field. Click the Residential Care checkbox to remove the check mark. Okay, so we're going to come down here to right there. The Select All checkbox is filled with black, indicating that all items are not checked. Click the OK button. The residential care column is removed from the pivot table. The pivot table includes sales from only group, group home, individual, and restaurant. See figure 5-42. You can show the hidden objects by clicking the Column Labels Filter button and checking the residential care checkbox. Flip your page and take a look at figure 5-42 and compare that to your screen. Go ahead and save your file, and you're ready to move on to the next video.